Rhina.
Oh, I'm sorry, Brian. Excuse me.
Probably not the first time.
Yeah, I'm challenged. Paul is here. And Marion.
She was unable to attend.
And did Julia sign on?
She's right here.
Oh,
Just snuck in.
oh, okay. I thought you looked familiar, but with the mask, thanks. So Julia's here.
Shorter hair. She has shorter hair, exactly.
Shorter hair. And we have our guest, Kate Morris, that Mitch will introduce here in a second. So did we cover everyone pretty much? Did I leave anyone out? We got everything?
We have a number of staff.
Oh, okay. We'll do that during the introduction. Okay, take it away.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Bob. I wanted to welcome all our EC members, both those who are joining us in person this afternoon at St. Lawrence University and those who are joining us virtually. It is exciting to see even a few people in the flesh, and I'm hopeful that the region will be able to keep the Delta variant in check and will be able to continue offering an opportunity for people to attend these meetings in person in the months to come. Just a few introductory remarks. This is my third annual meeting, and the part of this meeting I've really come to look forward to is the chance to look back as I prepare for the meeting and as we'll hear from the members of the NCPR team in just a few minutes. My job here is really to synthesize what my colleagues are about to share without stealing their thunder. And hopefully people can hear me. So let me, by way of introduction, say what the men and women of North Country Public Radio have done in the last 12 months is nothing short of astonishing. When we got together for this meeting a year ago, we were cautiously optimistic about what we might be able to accomplish if circumstances allowed. We hoped our news team could keep up its feverish pace covering the pandemic and its myriad effects on the North Country, and then the looming campaign season and whatever else the world might throw at us. We hoped our audience would continue to support us in a challenging time for us and for them. We hoped that the business climate would improve enough so that underwriters would return and support our broadcast and our digital products. We hope that with so much else going on, we could continue to make the kind of radio that has drawn people to us for more than 50 years. Innovative, friendly, professional, unique, human. We hoped that our employees, our team, our NCPR family would stay healthy in the scariest public health crisis any of us have known. Well, as you will hear, it took more than hope, but all of these things happened. Our news team didn't just keep up the pace, they won major awards for doing it. Our fundraising did as well as it has ever done. Not only have underwriters returned, but they're supporting parts of NCPR that have never been underwritten before. We produced special programs, held events, made connections in an isolating time, and even hired new employees that are a perfect fit for this special place. While there are challenges that loom, our financial position in August of 2021 is extremely strong. And throughout the last year, we have had, knock on wood, no cases of COVID among NCPR staff members. It's all come with a lot of hope and a lot of hard work, but there is so much to be proud of about this organization and the truly special people that comprise it. We're going to hear from each of our managers momentarily. Before that, we have a distinguished guest joining us. But before we meet her, I would like to quickly go around the room in person and over Zoom, if we can, and have each of our staff members introduce themselves with your name and a brief few words about what you do. So why don't we go around the physical room first? David, do you want to just start and introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm David Summerstein. I'm the news director. I run the news department, do all the edits, and I also host the Beat Authority on Friday afternoons. And I do Story of the Day every day.
Radio Bob.
I'm Bob Sauter. I'm the former chief engineer for North Country Public Radio, and I'm still doing the financial stuff, and I still do the Radio Bob show, and that's that. Nothing to it.
And I'm Mitch Tyke. I'm the station manager.
I'm Bonnie North. I'm the director of audience programs and outreach. So that's kind of everything, everything together. It's all, deal with national programs, deal with a lot of our local shows as executive producer of bookmarks and that sort of thing. Work a lot with Bill on digital and how those things interface with broadcast. And then also outreach when we can do it. We've done some, but that part of the job has been very much on the back burner. I expect that's going to change. I hope that's going to change.
We jump out to Celia.
Hey, I'm Celia Clark. I'm the St. Lawrence Valley reporter for North Country.
And one of our three newest staff members.
Right, I moved here in the snow in February. because That's what somebody from Virginia should do. I wasn't living in Virginia at the time. So.
I'm Bill Hanel, Director of Digital Services. I make sure that all the amazing work that our crew does makes its way out to the people who choose to experience over digital channels.
I'm Lizette Hanel. I'm the Development Director for North Country Public Radio. We are a team of three. I have Ethan Shanty and Christine Darrow, who are on Zoom with us today, who really just help keep our financials and individual giving service top notch. Honestly, we have a great team. So I'm grateful to donors who have come through for us this year, but we deal with, everything from individual giving annually to vehicle donations and everything in between. So
Keith.
Keith Smeal, and I'm the new chief engineer. I don't know if I could ever fill Bob's shoes, but I'll do my best.
We are debating whether to call you Radio Keith.
I think that moniker can stay with Bob.
I'm Jessica Lawrence. I'm the underwriting director at NCPR, and I'm the host of North Country Bookmarks.
I'm Doyle Dean. I'm the production manager at NCPR, and I also head up the Underscore project, and I host the Dean's List on Mondays, right after this meeting.
And I don't know if either of our staff members that signed on wanted to say anything. I guess they have to raise their hand if they do.
Christine's allowed to talk. And Ethan's allowed to talk.
I don't know if Christine or Ethan, you want to introduce yourselves? You don't have to.
Hi, I'm not sure if you can
Oh,
see me,
Christine's
but can
talking.
you hear me?
Oh, but we may not have do we have the speaker on?
Yeah, it should be on.
Well, we're doing this early in the meeting.
Hi, are you able to hear me now? Hello?
The pandemic has given us all lessons in how to use Zoom. hasn't it? I mean,
Christine, do you want to try
Oh,
again?
Hannah can hear her on Zoom. So Christine's talking. We just can't. hear
We're just
her.
not hearing her. Oh, that's good.
So we have parallel meetings.
Yes.
We'll talk about it.
You have the speaker plugged into the Scarlett.
We were using it before.
Well, Christine is the giving coordinator and works in the development department with Lizette and Ethan. And Ethan is a guy, he's our Ethan of all trades. He is an associate in the development department, but is also an announcer. He also produces North Country Bookmarks and does a little bit of everything, a radio generalist, and we're lucky to have them both.
He flies your traffic helicopter.
And he
Yes,
flies-
it flies a traffic helicopter on the Dean's List, exactly.
Don't forget Mike.
Don't forget.
Mike Alzo.
Oh, no, he is not on there. That's Mike.
No, but you didn't introduce him. He's standing next to Dean.
No,
Oh,
no,
that's
no, no, no.
Kevin.
That's the
Kevin.
gentleman there is Kevin from IT.
Okay. Well, still, you should.
But
He does play like that. So
all right. And we are actually, I will say that we're really grateful both to St. Lawrence University for the use of the Dean Eaton Lounge today and to Kevin Irwin from the St. Lawrence IT department who are allowing us to broadcast this meeting live as we are. So I wanted to do those introductions so that our guests can now put faces with names. I'm delighted to have Kate Morris join us. She has been on the job for what, 6 weeks now? As the new president of St. Lawrence University, having come here from a long career at Butler University in Indianapolis. She's also a supporter of public media, and I had the pleasure of taking her on a tour of the NCPR facilities not long ago, but as is often the case on a pandemic era Friday in the summer, not many staff members were around. So I'm delighted that you get to meet so many in person. It is wonderful that you're making time to join us today, and welcome.
Thank you, Mitch. Appreciate it. It's nice to see everyone who is here, and it's nice to be with those of you who are on Zoom, but we cannot see you. So you are some names down the side. Thank you for all the introductions as well. I have just a few quick remarks, and then I'm going to actually sneak out for the rest of the meeting while you get your business underway. I became a public radio fan when I lived in Austin, Texas, where I was a graduate student. I think that might have been KUT, but I don't remember.
Yeah, we all.
And so that's where I first learned about public radio and was a really big fan. So when I moved to Indianapolis in 1996, I very quickly looked for public radio and public TV there, and both of those are WFYI, which is a great set of call letters, and was a regular listener to WFYI's radio station for the 24 years that I lived in Indianapolis. When I originally applied for this position that I now occupy here at St. Lawrence, I did not know at that time that there was a radio station here, and that was a delightful bonus as far as I was concerned, because I have been such a fan of public radio. I did make my first donation to NCPR before I was officially on board at St. Lawrence, and I've got the stickers on my cars, and I'm going to be a strong supporter of you all and the important work that you do. I will say that sadly, I haven't listened as much as I used to because I don't drive to and from work anymore. I walk, and that was my drive time, is when I listened to public radio the majority of the time. But I have downloaded the app. I get the daily news update, and I'm trying to be as much of an engaged citizen with NCPR as I possibly can be. Mitch is right that he gave Paul and me a tour of the facilities. In fact, that was the first tour that I had of any St. Lawrence associated facilities. And I met Bob there that day. So, and maybe a couple other people, although I don't think anybody who's here right now. And that was really lovely. So thank you for that, letting me see what all of that is all about. And I am pleased on behalf of it feels a little weird to say anything on behalf of St. Lawrence because I'm so new at St. Lawrence, but we're delighted to host you here today for this meeting, to have the strong partnership with NCPR. And I would say we're looking for more ways to create better integration. And one good example of that is that Mitch has kindly agreed to serve as the moderator for a panel that we're hosting on the future of higher education as a part of my inauguration coming up in late October. So that's just one example of where we're trying to do some other things. I did an interview with Mitch. I'm doing an interview later today. So we're always looking for ways to figure out where two institutions that are for the public good can come together and do some interesting things. I also will tell you that one of the things that was appealing to me about the St. Lawrence University presidency is the commitment that St. Lawrence has to the North Country. And I think the fact that we are the host organization for NCPR is perhaps the best example of that there is out there, although there are many other examples. Very, very pleased that this is an institution that has such a palpable commitment to the broader local community, not just in Canton, but all around the North Country. So I am delighted to be a part of the community that many of you call home, and look forward to seeing you and hearing you much more frequently as time goes by.
I have the perfect 10-minute regional news update for your walk. I'll put you up. I got it for you.
Very good. Very good. Glad to hear that.
we are delighted that you could make it to this. I know you have a busy university president schedule, but we're grateful that you were able to be here. And I've shared the annual report, and I hope you won't be a stranger, and that we might see you at future EC meetings. And I really am completely delighted to play a role in the inauguration that's coming up.
Thank you, and likewise. So I'm gonna head out, but I hope you have a good rest of your meeting, and I look forward to seeing you all soon.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
With that, we will move on to the next order of business or do you want to take us to that?
No, do you want to do the departmental review?
Yes, so this is the point in the meeting that we are doing departmental years in review. And I think we're going to check to see if looks like we have
Yay.
continuing to work through our technical issues here. Do we want to see if we can hear one of our attendees? Ethan or Christine, would you be willing to unmute yourself after Jessica allows it, and see if we can hear you?
Right now, Christine Gillespie.
Okay, Christine, can we hear you?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yay!
Can you hear us?
Okay.
Thank you. All right. I think first joining us, I'm going to share a screen here. Bob Sauter is going to set the stage for us with a report on the year in review financially. And let me share the screen and toggle to the right window so that we can see there it is.
Did everybody get a copy that they can look at? or-
Yes, people, Julia has not. Let me hand this. And the rest of you should either have it on your email. I did not have enough to share with absolutely everybody. David, do you want a copy of this?
I'll look.
Okay.
I can see.
I tried to save trees where at
Try to
all
cut down.
possible.
Yeah.
And it's up on the screen as well for those of you here in the room.
So basically, not much has changed since I gave a report in May. But thanks to a few things, we have a kind of outstanding cash balance for the end of this fiscal year. We received 2 stabilization grants from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting for $112,000 and $278,000. It's pretty amazing. We've continue to receive donations to the Future Fund. Also, St. Lawrence University terrifically applied for and received a PPP loan for us for $261,000. That, and look, this is looking at it from a strictly bean counters point of view. We spent a lot less money, including on salaries, because we didn't have several fulfilled positions, which is, it's good if you're trying to make money, not so good if you're actually trying to have a service. But anyway, because of this, our current actual cash balance is $1,178,000. That's not even, no, it's more than that. It says it here. I just got so excited about it. I didn't write it down. It's $1,680,746. And some of this is restricted to the capital projects that we're going to be, the studio renovations we're going to be doing this fall. But in general, it's a substantial amount of money. But again, things are going to be changing for FY22. Salaries will go up to their normal levels. The National Public Radio has increased their fees by, I think, $60,000. St. Lawrence University will be gradually tapering off their cash subsidy by 25% this year. So we'll be having to use that $1.6 million in the next several years to cover expenses based on what we normally get in revenues from our normal sources of membership and underwriting and federal and state grants. So as of today, everything is great, but we really will have to be doing some planning in the future in order to wisely use this cash reserve to change the funding sources, increase funding sources, keep control of expenses, the usual things you could imagine. And if you have any questions about any of these line items, I'd love to entertain them. I picked a couple of things there in expenses for tower rent and web streaming, just for fun. I mean, just to show you how much we have to spend on things like that. I could have picked other things like how much we spend on premiums or telephone, but other than that, 2021 was a great year, except for all the parts that weren't so good. And again, this is a cash summary, so this doesn't include things like what we have commitments for in the future or things we paid for in the past. This is just cash, as if you were looking at your wallet and you're looking at your checkbook and chose the balance of that is.
And I'll say we've been in touch with, we've spoken with the finance office at St. Lawrence, and we still have to reconcile the exact numbers, but I think what we're presenting today is pretty reflective of Eric Shinnick's understanding as well. So if you're joining us remotely and you have questions, I think you need to raise, there's a button that says raise hand. And then Jessica will allow you to unmute. Should I stop sharing, or? I think it helps to have the numbers on the screen, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not.
Yes.
Oh.
Question, just Bob, where does the PPP loan? Where does
Okay.
it show up on the sheet, or does it not?
It shows up, if you look at where it says end of year cash balance of $1,178,640. It says note FY 2021 ending balance assumes forgiveness of 261,000 PPP loans.
So it's in that, we'll call it peach color?
Yes.
Yes.
The one above it is salmon, I think.
Salmon.
Those are the only colors I had available at that time.
Thank you.
But yeah, it's right there. I couldn't really figure out how else to present it.
Other questions from people in person? No, all right. Well, thank you, Bob. Bob is going to stick around for a little while still.
I'm going to be the exiting engineer too.
The exiting engineer report will be coming up in just a little bit, but I think next on the agenda is, let me stop sharing this screen. Bonnie North on programming with David Summerstein on deck. On deck, yes,
Okay,
yes. The baseball
I
term
got
means he's
it.
batting next.
yes, yes, exactly. I got it. Well, again, I did a big summary back, I think it was in May for programming, went over expenses there, so I didn't really include that here, but as Bob alluded, one of, other than salaries and benefits, programming that we get from NPR, PRI, APM, that sort of thing, that is our next biggest line item in the budget. It's about $400,000 a year right now. That's knocked down from, I managed to negotiate a bunch off, but those are this year only. So that's another thing we're gonna have to be looking at budget wise, is how to continue to try to save money with our national programming. But I think most of us know this past year, it's the twin pillars of COVID and the 2020 election and the aftermath of the election that dominated programming. From our COVID reporting and resources guide to seamlessly integrating daily briefings from the governor to adjusting daily programming to accommodate congressional hearings or the January 6, 2021 insurrection. NCPR has provided exemplary service to our audience and our region. David's going to talk, of course, about the regional news coverage in depth, but I want to specifically mention and get into the record the hard work of our small but very mighty announcing team for keeping our on-air sound on point during a year when the news didn't stop coming and the pandemic kept most of us out of the station to help out. I've lost track of the number of times we've had to pivot to and from breaking news, and that includes today. where the president's going to be speaking about Afghanistan at 3:39,
Are
to
we
be
gonna have that
specific.
on, by the way?
Yes, we are having that on.
Yes, it is. And so our ability to respond so well to all of these pivots is due to no small part to the skill and professionalism of Todd Moe, Shelley Pike, Doyle Dean, Ethan Shanty, David Summerstein, and Bob Sauter. I want to really get that in the record that we couldn't have gotten through this year without those specific people pivoting live in the moment, making sure we sounded good and making sure that we were delivering the service that we're here to deliver. One of the other ways that programming super served the audience this year is that when we knew we were going to have long stretches of congressional hearings or Supreme Court hearings or whatever, we shifted our regular programming to WREM and to WREM stream. And that was something that I wanted to do because it allows people who just are tired of hearing congressional hearings to go back to what our normal programming is. And so we sort of, thanks to Bob and Shelley, figured out a way to have a second stream when we don't really have a second stream. And we've done that also with our programming on Saturday afternoons during the opera. As almost everyone here knows, the opera is a very contentious programming thing. We have people who love it and people who hate it, probably more polarized than even politics in the North Country, I think. But the way we have solved it again is to use WREM and WREM stream to offer our non-opera programming year-round. So American Roots, Hidden Brain, and the TED Radio Hour are available year-round now. And we have heard from audience members, both who appreciate that the opera is still available to them and those who appreciate that they have an option to not listen to the opera. So I think in that way, we have done really well in trying to serve both constituencies. Outreach, of course, remained mostly virtual. We had no choice. We've done some howls. Jessica has really taken a lead on doing bookmarks, live events where we've gotten folks in for that. North Country at Work restarted a project that was delayed by the pandemic with Akwesasne and their Akwesasne at Work project. And there's an actual art exhibit or an exhibit that's part of that that's at the Cultural Center in Hogansburg. We just had a beat authority from Long Lake, and we're going to do more of those, more concerts. Doyle mentioned the Underscore project. That has been an ongoing project that I'm really, really proud of, and very proud of Doyle for taking such a strong lead on making that happen. Right now, we have more than 30 regional musicians who are represented. What the project started out is, as if you listen to All Things Considered in Morning Edition, you'll hear music beds, that they'll play underneath the breaks. And we often will talk over those because we have underwriters and other local business. And so what we decided to do was, rather than use NPRs, is let's see if we can't support our regional musicians who have no place to play and no way to have an income coming in, and at least get them on the air. And that's how it started. It has since grown. We were playing before we started recording. We played an Underscore special that Doyle is actually going to be airing this Friday. This is the last week of our summer funder campaign. And so this is a way for us to kind of say, this is the kind of local programming that you're supporting by contributing right now. We've been engaged in discussions about how to measure our audience. This is an ongoing issue. We hope to diversify and expand the audience, both for broadcast and digital. And we're in the process of crafting a grant proposal to measure our digital reach. We're working on another proposal to fund 2 community outreach positions, one on the content side and one on the marketing and outreach side. And I'm hopeful that we'll get the money for that and that those positions will help generate new content for David and for Northern Light, and also help create some funding options for us, reach audience that we haven't reached before. And it's this kind of audience-centered thinking that's going to help us stay tuned to the needs of our changing audience. Couple of quick highlights, I just want to say, I was looking back at specials in December and January. We aired 34 holiday specials that covered Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, and New Year's Eve and Day. 8 of those specials were produced by us in the form of holiday themed music shows. So each music host came up with things. We had another one produced by the Orchestra of Northern New York. And for the first time, we had one from the Fort Drum Military Band. And that I was really pleased that we were able to make that connection with Fort Drum and the military. And I hope that that's going to happen again this year. I expect that there, and I have to say, it was a fabulous concert too. They were terrific. So we were really pleased to get that. In the report, I won't read everything. There's a list of our NCPR produced programs and or modules, starting with Northern Light, going to all of our music shows, and our local contributors like Chef Curtis Howe or John Warren or Aileen O'Donoghue, who's SLU also and our astronomy contributor, as well as those 30 regional musicians. We've improved our on-air fundraising sound. Lizette and I have been working together really hard about streamlining how we do that. And you're going to talk about numbers, but we managed to do this again in a pandemic where nobody could be in the studio together. And we had to figure out how to do fundraising and how to do it well. And I think we have. Everyone has jumped on board with it, and I'm very happy about that. And then the last thing I want to mention is that I was able to get Marilyn Pittman, who is one of the radio industry's top trainers for voice and copywriting, to work with all of our on-air staff. We did it in sections. We started with announcers, and then we did bookmarks, and then we did the news team. And she was able to do what I hope she could do. She's really, in our business, she's one of the best. And she was able to work with everybody to help them sound their best. And that was the whole point, not to change what you sound like, but to just sound the best possible way that you can sound, and to think about how you put breaks together, to think about how how the stationality of the, of NCPR is kind of dependent on that. So we still sound like us, we just sound like us even better. And so that was a really wonderful thing. And then the only thing else I have is that, in terms of challenges ahead, and this all wraps up into money too, our on-air functions really operate on the thinnest of margins. And in fact, today was a perfect example. We had it all set up. Doyle normally would be on the air right now. And Shelley, who's not on the air today, was going to substitute. She was sick this morning. And so she called me at 9 o'clock, and because Doyle is here and Bob is here and David is here, and so there was this cascading, okay, who can we get and how can we do this and still stay on the air? So the thinnest of margins makes it tough to consider growth, because we have no wiggle room. And we have, if there was a long-term illness or, accident or something like that, we're in a tough place. And I worry about burnout, because everyone's been doing and operating this way for 18 months. And so in order to continue to provide the service that our audience deserves, it's one of those things we really have to look at and address and remediate, probably sooner rather than later. But again, I just want to say thank you to that hardworking announcer team, and to everyone who supports that hardworking announcer team. The whole staff has done amazing work, and it's been a heck of a year, and it doesn't look like it's slowing down. So I think we're looking for another year. Yeah, at this time, a year from now, we'll be going, well, that was quite a year. So thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you last year at this time, Bonnie has been on the job for about, 5 months. And
Barely, yeah.
it's just like having to hit the ground running doesn't even begin to define what she's had to do over the last year and a half. I think we had, Jess, we had a question
Yep,
on
we have a
from the
question for
chat.
Bonnie. How do you expand the audience without changing the narrow programming decisions?
I'm not quite sure I understand the question.
Mike wrote, how do you expand the audience without changing the narrow programming decisions?
Well, I would say that I don't think we have narrow programming decisions. I think we have a pretty broad, if he's talking about national programming, we have a pretty broad swath of stuff represented, both in terms of news and conversation shows and also music shows.
I was just going to say,
Yeah.
I think we can also speak to the kinds of programs that we've added in the last 12 to 15 months. Things like,
Sam Sanders.
thank you. It's
Yeah,
been a minute.
It's been a minute with Sam Sanders, 1A, the BBC NewsHour, Quirks and Quarks from the CBC. We've added some more climate in stuff, that climate
A
connections.
show
that comes from
specifically
Yale.
about climate change.
Yeah, and also specials as much as we can. I mean, we're never going to be able to be everything to everyone on the programming schedule. So I'm doing we do the best we can, is trying to reach as broad an audience. In order to, and Bill's going to talk to this too. One of the things that the research, at least on the digital side of things, and from radio stations that actually get Nielsen data that you can do more, we don't. I'm not going to go into the details here because I don't want to use up too much time on that, but suffice it to say that Nielsen measures only a very small part of our broadcast audience. So we don't know what people are listening to, but if we are to extrapolate what's happening industry-wide, digital listening is up and broadcast listening is down. And so or at least my goal, and I think our entire staff's goal, is to be as broad as we can and as inclusive as we can with our programming on the digital side, knowing that that audience is very likely shrinking because it is in other markets that are actually measured. So the one thing that digital does, and again, Bill can talk about this more, is it allows us to be even more inclusive and offer more things because we're not stuck with 24 hours in a day on digital. And people can dip in and out the way they do in the rest of their lives, the way I do in my life. I don't sit down and listen to the radio, from 9 to 5 or 9 to 6, the way I used to 20 years ago. So I think we're going to be reaching more audience that way. And I guess that's about all I have to say about that. And, the whole in the back of this, and I mentioned this in the meeting, the EC meeting back in May, because Nielsen doesn't give us numbers and we don't know really what the listening habits of our audience is. In order to find that out, we would have to figure out a measurement tool ourselves. In other words, we'd have to try to replicate what Nielsen's done with a lot of money and try to do it. Not sure that it's worth our money and effort to do that, given what it would cost and the possible return that we would have out of it. Certainly something to consider, certainly something to think about. And if we decide that that's where we want to go, then we would have to, make the commitment that we were going to hire somebody who could develop that kind of measurement tool and then get it out in the field and measure it. And so it's why Nielsen is the
Right.
loss leader in that, because, and the other thing Nielsen doesn't do is they don't measure Canada. They don't measure the Canadian audience. I don't think they can. I don't think they're allowed.
No,
to.
there's another.
Yeah. And so, we have no idea what our Canadian audience, other than what they tell us. So
Justice, we have another.
A follow-up from Mike. He wants to know, what are the input channels outside of meetings like this one?
input in what sense?
Regarding-
Email, people call. We get a lot of audience requests and questions about things and about programs, and I answer them all.
Well, and so Mike also raised Democracy
Sorry,
Now!
I've got,
Yeah.
I've
Yeah,
got
that's
the,
fine.
I don't have the wrong glasses. on to
Yeah,
read that.
and
it's
I
up
have,
there.
I've sent him a note saying I'm more than happy to facilitate a conversation with you about any
Yep.
particular show requests,
Yep.
including but not limited to Democracy Now!
Yep.
Did we have others that wanted to talk, Jess? Okay,
No.
anybody in the room that wanted to? Okay, Bonnie, thanks again.
Yep.
Next on the list, I think I have David Summerstein and who is on deck? I think Digital Services, Bill Hanel, you're on deck.
So I guess, just start by saying that like a year ago, the last time we came to you, we were sort of deep in covering this pandemic and the beginning of the protests over systemic race in the country. And we were exhausted then and overwhelmed then. And now it's been a whole year of that, adding on the 2020 election, the January 6th invasion of the Capitol, Governor Cuomo resigning, and it's been a busy news year for sure. And in the midst of all that, we've had a lot of staff churn. We lost one reporter who had come here just before the pandemic, Julia Ritchie, and it was just really tough. She loved working here, but it was very tough for her personally, because she couldn't make any friends, because none of us could really be with any friends for that year. So she left, Brian Mann had left, and we've only recently kind of become whole again. And I want to give a big shout out again to Celia Clark, our St. Lawrence Valley reporter, who is also going to be doing a lot of reporting in Akwesasne as well. And she's really hit the ground running. Ryan Finnerty, our reporter in Plattsburgh, has really hit the ground running. So we're like just becoming like a whole sort of, firing on all cylinders news department again. And we're waiting excitedly to hire a digital editor after Dale Hobson retired last September. So there's a lot of work. I also want to give a shout out to Paul and St. Lawrence University. During that time last summer, when we couldn't hire anybody, St. Lawrence was fantastic at being flexible and allowing us to hire people full-time temporary, so that, we were working so many hours, there's no way that you could have just, contracted with somebody. And we were able to hire Natasha Haverty for 3 months and Emma Jacobs for 3 months. And that just got us through like the real sort of urgent time when we were so short-staffed. So a real appreciation to Paul and to St. Lawrence for that. A huge accomplishment this year through all that was we have a new name for our morning news show. It's called Northern Light. We're really excited about it. To be honest, ever since I started working here at NCPR 20 years ago, I was not a big fan of the 8 o'clock hour. It was never really an hour long. So we have a new name, a new logo as well that is gorgeous, that is really nice, and we're going to be putting that on shirts or mugs or stuff like that. We'll be working with Lizette to do cool things with the logo now that we have it. So, and I really want to mention Todd Moe, our morning host, and Monica Sandreski, the co-host and producer of Northern Light, who has like made that show just sound amazing. They sound so alive every morning, and it's really, continued to be our flagship, sort of regional news presence in the morning. So we're really, really excited about that. I also went to the office today, and in the mail, I thought this was a perfect opportunity here. 2 Regional Edward R. Murrow Awards in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 awards.
You rode your
from
bike over all
Public
those
Radio.
awards in your backpack?
I had to, even on my bike. 5 awards from the Public Radio, the Public Media Journalists Association, which used to be called the Public Radio News Directors Association. And these are like the premier awards in public radio. And we won no other state. There's one station that got 6 awards, but no other station. We were like one of maybe two or three other stations that got 5 awards in various categories. So through all that work, through all the churn, we managed to win a lot of awards. And
I want to
we're
interrupt
really
you for
excited
1
about that.
minute.
Yes.
I have burned out drills putting up your award.
Yeah, there's still a ton that have not, like 3 years worth that haven't been.
I know.
Can I interrupt
great.
also? We are
Yes.
finding out we will find out tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow. Whether one of the 2 Edward R. Murr Awards wins the national category.
Nice.
Can you rattle off the names of the reporters being recognized? Is that appropriate or no?
Yes, of course. I think we've mentioned them all, almost all of them. Emily Russell. Oh, I want to say one other thing about Emily Russell. Emily Russell, we promoted to assistant news director, which is really exciting. So out on day duty today, so I'm not sure that she's listening, but congratulations to Emily Russell. And she really cleaned up in the public media award, the PMJ awards, won for 3 different features, first place. And she also won for sports feature, one of the Edward R. Murr Awards right here, this one.
Amazing how well we do with sports awards, isn't it?
But hey, we have a lot of good sports here. And also Amy Fyrizel, who for North Country at Work, she really became part of the news department through the pandemic and has taken an incredible affinity to education reporting. She's become a real expert in the field and has done amazing reporting on it, led our childcare coverage, which also won awards here. And she's continuing to do it. She just got a fellowship from the Education Writers Association, basically a grant to do some more reporting on following specific schools, like a few schools, and how they're transitioning from last year's crazy remote stuff to getting kids back in the classroom and all the loss of education that sort of entailed in that year. So she'll be doing that reporting this summer and this fall. So we're really excited about that. I wanted to talk about one thing, and I think this heads into the next thing I want to talk about, is that one of these awards we won for excellence in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it was called A Reckoning on Race in Rural New York. And I looked through the other winners, and there were a lot of people who were reporting on those issues. And I don't think there were any other rural radio stations that did.
Nice.
And I think a huge important thing that our news team tries to keep really front and center is yes, we're in this majority white region, but we live in a really diverse region in a lot of different ways. And it's important for us to keep on reporting on that diversity, to find sources who represent the diverse range of interests and experiences of those people, to diversify our news department and our radio station ourselves, and to track some of that stuff. So sort of starting that this year, we put together a thing called a source tracker. So we're trying to keep track of we started with the gender and race or ethnicity of all the people that we talk to, that we interview, and trying to make that more diverse, trying to have a more diverse range of voices on our air. And we want to increase that, find ways to make it more economic, represent sort of economic and class diversity, LGBTQ, age, there's many different ways that you can think about it, military, veterans. And so we're going to sort of continue to develop the source tracker that we've put in place. And thanks to Bill Hanel for doing sort of the back office work on that so that we could actually track it. Another huge focus of the news department related to that was our coverage of the police accountability and the police reform plans that every community had to put together. We covered many, I don't think we could hit every single police department, but we did hit many of them. And we had a news retreat a couple months ago, and this one word kept on coming up. We were talking about sort of our values and our mission. And this word document kept coming up. And we were thinking about just our role in documenting things that are happening. And this story was just a simple tip that Emily got. Say, hey, you should just go look at there's no like, FOIA-ing or anything like that. This is just somebody saying, hey, you should go check out the Malone Police Reform Plan. She checked out the Malone Police Reform Plan, and it was crazy. I mean, it was like it denied that Black people lived in Malone. It said that it was a French Quebecois village. It was stunning, and we did reporting on that, and it was because of the reporting that Emily did that led to their first public hearing being absolutely packed, and it led to them completely revising the plan. Now, of course, to continue doing that accountability, now we got to do a lot of reporting on what police are not doing with these reform plans, and that's kind of a focus of the fall as we go forward and people get back from much needed vacations and stuff. But I want to just play the opening of this because it's so good and speaks to the great work that Emily did.
Hopefully I'm successfully sharing the computer sound.
The village of Malone faced fierce backlash last month after its draft police reform plan praised the community's white heritage and described Black residents as transient. But that controversy led to more nuanced conversations about racism in Malone and a new police reform plan that acknowledges systemic racism. Emily Russell reports.
The first draft of Malone's police reform plan dismissed racism and said the village's white heritage was an asset to police. It linked Black people to the local prisons and said Malone's proximity to the native reservation at Akwesasne led to a, quote, never-ending crisis of illicit drugs.
It's a stain on the village of Malone, it's a stain on Franklin County, and it's a stain on the North Country.
That's Precious Kane speaking at the first public forum held last month to discuss the plan. Kane is a Black woman who grew up in the village. The plan also led to a small protest outside the village offices. Speaking later with NCPR, Kane said that moment, all that outrage started a new conversation in Malone.
I didn't expect that many people to come out and say that this isn't okay. This is completely unacceptable.
Officials in Malone scrapped that first plan and agreed to schedule 2 more public forums. At one of the follow-up meetings, Village Police Chief Christopher Primo said he reached out to Akwesasne's tribal police chief to apologize.
She reached out to and apologized for a report yesterday, which he appreciated.
So, it's work like that that can spark additional conversations and can spark real, actual change out there in the world through the work that our news department and other news departments are doing. And I think if anything, that this last year and a half, this pandemic, all the politics has really, I think, taught everybody, and there's more and more conversations about this nationally, is the importance of local news, the importance of people to witness and to document what's happening, especially in the levels of government, and to report on it and let activists then be activists, and people to make change in their communities, but to be there to sort of testify and witness to what is happening is so important. And we're seeing people talk about like maybe government should be paying more for local news. And I just sent an email to Mitch where I'd seen people were talking about that recently. I just want to say one last thing. Just in the last week, we had 5 different stories on our national programs. Emily had a story on All Things Considered about vaccine hesitancy. Ryan Finnerty was on Here and Now live twice, just as the news broke about the Cuomo stuff. And he had a story on Weekend Edition Saturday about the Canadian border opening. Monica Sandreski had a delightful story on Weekend Edition Sunday about this magician in Old Forge. Shout out to coverage in Old Forge. And Amy Fyrizel had a story on Here and Now about her education coverage and childcare coverage. So we keep on doing the work, we keep on bringing it to national audiences, and I'm really, really proud that, we're able to do it at such a high excellence day in and day out. And it's thanks to, everybody who works in the news department and everybody who works alongside us and who pays for us to be able to do the work.
Thank you so much, Dan, and thanks to your leadership as well.
Are there any questions about what we're doing? Yeah.
Mike would like me to
Hi, Mike.
point out that he just heard that you want to do stories about Black life in the NOCO, then get into the many prisons. They are all COVID hotbeds that's skewing local statistics.
Yeah, that's a story that yes, excellent. Yes, good, really good point. Story that we have covered through the pandemic for sure. And we'll continue to. We've done tons and tons, lots of prison coverage for years, led by Brian's coverage, I don't know, more than a decade ago.
How does the national news programs pick up local stories? Do you submit them? Or does someone hear them and reach out?
It goes in both ways. Sometimes like Monica's magician story, she pitched, she did a local version. I said, it was fantastic. And I said, yeah, it's just a great summer story. We should pitch it to national. So we have an editor that we work with and we pitch them the story. And then conversely, they'll call us. And this I'm really, really proud of is here and now, when the story broke about Cuomo, the first one about the Attorney General probe coming out, Eileen Bolinsky, the editor at Here and Now, called me and is like, hey, do you have anybody who can talk to us about, about the probe? I mean, this is out of all of New York State, right? But she knows us, they trust us, they'll come to us to do stories because they know that we'll do really good work for a national audience.
That's great.
So it kind of goes both ways.
Other questions, either from our remote EC members or in person? All right, Bill Hanel, you have the stage, and I believe, Lizette, are you on deck? Yes.
Hi again, everyone. So I just, aside from what's in my report, I just want to say after listening to David and Bonnie talk about the great stuff we're doing, I'm sort of blown away. And it occurs to me as I listen to all that, that there's a ton of work that goes into producing all that content. And there's a fair bit of work that goes into getting it out to the audience as well. Yes.
Sorry, I don't want, before you get too far into it, I misread. It is Keith and Bob who are on deck. So just making sure they know they'll be in the hot seat next.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So anyway, getting right to the point. This past, well, it was shortly after this meeting last year, Dale Hobson retired. He was our web manager, web managing editor, I think was his title anyway. He retired, and a fair bit of the work that goes into getting all this content, all this work out to the audience didn't have a home because we weren't able to rehire Dale's position. So I sat down with Bonnie and David and Doyle virtually, of course, at the time. And we sort of hashed out a solution for dealing with that work and who was going to take it on. And Bonnie stepped up to take over the NCPR Daily, which is a fair bit of her work day now. Doyle stepped up to take on photo of the day, artwork of the week, plus all the social media distribution of our daily music program promotion. The news team took over the lion's share of managing the front page of our website and the content that they put up in that space. And really, it's sort of the biggest story of the year for me is how we were able to take that workload and distribute it. Everybody is working extra for that. It's not like anybody had time to do that stuff. Emily Russell puts a fair bit of time into managing that front page, I know. We talk about it once in a while. And I also know that with all that stack of awards that she doesn't really have time for that, but she's doing it. And so the first thing I wanted to hit as I got started today was how much I appreciate everybody putting all that effort into the success of our digital service. And with that, Here are some numbers.
You should be able to share your screen, I think.
Yes. Here we go.
Oh, look at that.
It worked and everything. So this is just a kind of quick game for us to play. On the left, there are a bunch of terms, and on the right, there are a bunch of numbers. And you get to match up which terms go with which numbers. No, I'm just kidding. It's all in order. The top number, 2.53 million people, is actually the number of website users we had this past year. Pretty much every single number, if not all these numbers, are record-breaking numbers for the history of NCPR. So we serve more people this year, more content than we have ever before in the history of the station. 1.1 million Facebook users were reached with our content this past year. 2.5 million website users is a lot. And then immediately somebody wants to ask the question, well, yeah, but how many of those people who are, visiting your website in China really, they're not like donors or anything, right? Maybe they are, but the point is, I always take that piece of our audience and break it down and how many people are in the North Country, and we serve 800,000 people in the North Country over our digital channels and or over our website this year. 194,000 different live stream listeners, and yes, Bob, that's filtered. 97,000 Instagram users. 89,000, again, I like to break the numbers into how many people are actually here in region. 89,000 people in the North Country listened to our live stream at some point this year. 29,000 is the number of social media fans we have. Note the footnote there. That number is not deduped, meaning that somebody might be a fan on both Facebook and Instagram.
And who wouldn't be, really?
Right, exactly. 26,000 smart speaker users now. You'll see in one of the following charts, that's a huge increase. And this is sort of my number 2 big success story that I wanted to mention for the year. 15,000 email subscribers. We'll get to that more in a moment. 11,000 app users and about almost 4,000 podcast users. We're working on that. Let's see. So website users, you can see, and I'll just show you a couple of 5-year trends here so you can see how much we increased. Obviously, the FY 2020 traffic ticked up with the pandemic, and that was great. Ticked up even more in 2021. There's a hidden pattern in here that you can't see that I'll show you in the next slide, because while this upward trend was very strong, what we're actually seeing now at the end of the fiscal year, and there's the same pattern with our stream listeners and with our smart speaker listeners. But what you see, the trend for the end of the fiscal year is that traffic, all these purple lines, the traffic is on all platforms is starting to return to pre-pandemic levels. And this is, of course, one of my concerns, like 2 years ago when we started on the pandemic mission here, we knew we were going to have a surge of users. We knew we were going to have a surge of digital listeners. And so in my mind, this whole time has been, how are we going to keep these people? How are we going to keep these people? And that's actually not that easy. I mean, you would think, well, when they're there, say hi and invite them to stick around, which we do a fair bit of. But again, that's not that easy to do in the digital space. So what we did have to our advantage is actually something that I put in place in November of 2019, which you can see here in this chart on the right. This little blue line, this bright blue line, is the month that we introduced in our website a pop-up form to subscribe people to our NCPR daily email. And you can see here, 2017 to 2018, we actually lost subscribers. Like, our database shrunk in that year period, and then shrunk again in 2019. As of the moment we introduced this subscription form in 2019, all of a sudden we started adding way more subscribers and losing a lot less. And that trend continued right here in March 2020, like the heat of the pandemic. Everybody wanted to subscribe to this newsletter because we had this not only the NCPR Daily, but we had a daily COVID update, and people were subscribing to that like gangbusters. And you can sort of see that taper off, but even right up through the end of the fiscal year, unlike some of the charts that I just showed you a minute ago, those are staying strong. Like those numbers have leveled off, and we're keeping a pretty consistent number of email subscribers month to month. So folks still want to be in touch with us. They still want to be attached to us. So what we did was we took a number of subscribers, say for the NCPR Daily, that was down to 6,000 people from having been up over 7,000 at one point. And over that 2-year period, we built it to 11,000. It's about an 81% increase for the NCPR Daily. And so, and even with first person, which used to be called Listening Post when Dale Hobson, oh, I forgot to mention, Mitch took up the Listening Post too. Sorry, Mitch. It's like my favorite part of the week, really. So first person also grew like what is that, like 50% or something like that. And so granted, we didn't put up this subscription form this past year. We put it up in 2019, but we only put it up a couple months before the pandemic. We're very fortunate that that it happened when it did, because it really did give us an opportunity to maintain contact with some of the people who came in to our digital services.
And honestly, Bill, when I took over writing the Listening Post, I was worried that
Yep.
line would continue going downhill, but apparently not.
Yeah, this is a really good point, because you know, Dale left and we kind of all wondered what was going to happen because he did a lot of stuff. You know, he did a lot of really important stuff for distributing our digital content. It's really great to see that not only, you know, were we able to maintain, but we were able to grow. So, yes, Paul.
Bill, can you go back a slide?
Absolutely. Oops, can I? There we go.
One more.
That one. So does this represent that this is the total new subscribes or new unsubscribes per month?
Blue is subscribers, and red is unsubscribers.
New ones.
Yeah, so this is not, yeah, exactly, new ones.
So on average, we're gaining more than we're losing.
Absolutely.
And then two questions. One is, like Lizette, have you seen that the new subscribers translate into giving? And two, do we know why people are unsubscribing? I'll let you guys figure out how to answer.
Yeah, no. I think I can answer both of those questions. We do exchange email databases periodically. In fact, before, when our database was shrinking, the only thing we were doing to add new subscribers was to take addresses from our donor base when they came in as new donors and add them to the database. That doesn't work, right? In fact, that's why our unsubscribe rate was pretty high, because maybe a lot of those people didn't want to get the newsletter, right? So, and on top of that, it didn't do anything for bringing in like new potential donors, because every single visitor to the website or listener to the stream or something like that, that's a potential new donor, but we don't know it yet. And if you're only ever taking existing donors and new donors and adding them to the database, you're missing that pool. So I think, and Lizette will talk about some of the, you know, some of the new donor totals, I'm sure, but we've seen new donor numbers go up. Do I know that they're absolutely related to this? No, I don't. But I mean, you know, we make all these efforts, we put these strategies together in hopes that it'll work. And when it works, even if we can't connect it, maybe it does.
Know if a new donor is a subscriber.
Yes,
right.
We do.
And I can tell you that I'd also track it, because all of, especially our email, fundraising emails and all that stuff have a unique code that comes back to me and tells me what, where it came from, whether it was from the daily or the Listening Post or whatever. So yes, we do absolutely can relate new donor dollars with those solicitations.
It's
those products, digital products.
Yeah, sorry. It is a little bit laborious to connect the two databases and make comparisons. But I think that's a really good point. It's something we should be trying to figure out, because if nothing else, it's educational.
There's a follow-up question to that, I think, that we got from
Yeah, Margot has a question, sort of connecting. How can we connect sponsoring and fundraising to our digital platforms? Underwriting and development promotion, how do we connect more through digital?
If I understand clearly connect more? How do we, yeah.
Jess,
okay,
you can
so-
answer that too, I think.
Well, I mean, we do actually do a fair bit of fundraising and underwriting through digital. However, I perceive this question to be about how we're connecting with potential donors
Correct.
in those
That's- yeah,
channels. And honestly, if there's one thing that is the puzzle that keeps me, you know, like frustrated all the time, it's how do we create the sort of intimate relationship in the digital space that we have in radio, like, because that's what drives donors is that sort of that connection, that strong connection. And it is harder in the digital space. Social media is, I think, really good at that because people get really personal in that space. But it is harder in, you know, in a website to come off like a human being. And that's what, you know, that's the affinity that people get from us on the radio. So.
But if I can just add, I mean, I
Yeah.
think one of the things that we've seen in just the last year or year and a half is an increasing number of opportunities to connect sponsorship with various parts of the website, whether it's sponsoring
Right.
Photo of the Day or sponsoring specific pages within the news section. So, I mean,
Right.
I think we've actually tried to be really innovative, and I think it's just going to grow exponentially when it comes to figuring out ways of, you know, using what we're doing uniquely in the digital space to bring in new sponsorship opportunities.
Yes.
I mean, literally in the time that I got here and the time that, like, I emailed Bonnie, got approval for copy, it's scheduled to air on Thursday on the stream.
Yeah.
Like, we work really quickly to get
We do.
people what they want.
That's
and-
what I was just doing. was
Yeah,
approving
I
the
literally,
copy.
like, I literally showed my screen to Doyle and I was like, you need to go back and record this now.
So yeah, so we have put like a fair bit of effort into creating new inventory for digital underwriters and turning more of our spaces into opportunities for digital underwriters to get involved with us. And so, like, again, if I'm understanding the question correctly, I think there are a couple different ways to interpret that. Maybe we've covered both.
Yeah. Well, and that said, I think if people have, you know, new and different ideas for opportunities we
Yes.
should be pursuing, please do bring them to Bill
Oh,
or to
yes.
Jess or Bonnie or whoever.
Absolutely. I'd love to hear new ideas. And Paul, you had a second question.
Do you know why the unsubscribers, why they're unsubscribing?
No. Short answer, no, I don't. Sometimes I can guess based on what's going on in the world.
Right.
Or sometimes I can guess based on what kind of emails we're sending, because we also send fundraising emails to that same database. And so our unsubscribe rate will bump up a little bit during that time because people just decide that they don't, you know, they don't want to get fundraising emails. Unfortunately, once they have subscribed, you know, we can't put them back in. So that's something I'd like to tackle, like figure out how to, you know, send those kinds of emails, but give people the option of unsubscribing from that kind of email without actually unsubscribing from our newsletter email. But so maybe we don't. So moving along, as I mentioned at the beginning, probably in the accomplishments and goals category, probably the biggest thing I feel like we did a great job on is filling the gap that Dale left. We're and right beside that in the goals category, we're really looking forward to filling that gap with an actual body very soon. Poor Bonnie, she's been doing the daily for a year, and I'm going to provide some relief for her soon, but I think we'd like to have an actual person doing that job. So, well, not that you're not an actual person, Bonnie.
Yeah.
I hope you didn't take offense.
I didn't.
No. Okay, good. So, yeah, a lot of the stuff in the list here in terms of accomplishments, stuff that was done in order to accommodate Dale's absence, because I had to automate some processes and things like that sort of like, you know, turn Dale's work into a robotic mission. But also the email list growth was fantastic. We did a couple of campaigns this year, social media fundraising campaigns that I think were really great. Really happy with them. And actually, right after this, I have just a quick video that I'll punish you with of little clips from some of the social media fundraising videos. And not to be forgotten, because actually I'm super proud of this as well. Jess and I have been working together really closely on, like I said, creating new inventory for underwriters and then making sure that we can respond to their needs.
In like a 2-hour
Like, yeah, 2-3 hours, like,
Seriously.
can you get this online now? Can you report on it? Yes. So that's a program that I look forward to growing even more with new, as it says again in the goals column, with new tools for managing that process and reporting on it as well. Let's see, what else? Yeah, you can sort of peruse through the list there. You don't need to listen to me read it. Let's get right to the fun part, if it works. Here we go. Oh, so how do I make audio, Doyle?
Because you
it
had to
should be
shut off your
coming-
stuff.
You're sharing through Zoom, you should have it through there, you didn't have it?
Nope.
Well, let me see if,
If it does work.
And I will revert back to this.
Can't you lip sync it, Mitch?
yeah, exactly.
Try test the speaker, if you don't mind.
That's actually, I sit here. The question is just, in screen sharing, there usually is a box that says share computer sound.
Under the mute or the.
No, I guess I can't do that.
Yeah,
Do you have a
so
copy of
do
it?
you have a copy of it? If you don't, we'll
Oh.
just skip this part.
We'll skip this part because,
Okay.
well, I do have a copy of it. I have not put it on the, I will
Okay.
share it with everyone on the EC later because it is worth
That's just
worth
fine,
watching.
yeah. That's just fine.
It was, I will say, speaking as somebody who participated in this, one of the most enjoyable parts of our fundraising in recent years has just been the ability to use everybody's creativity to go, off of the printed page and off of the radio and get into video. And notice I am wearing my slippers in that video.
No, it just simply doesn't work. Okay. Too bad.
It's too bad. That was fun.
Great.
You can try one more time. And did you click on view options? All right.
That's all right. View options?
Yeah. Oh, maybe I need to do that. Hold on. No, I guess not. Sorry.
What if you request remote control?
What's that? Pause remote control.
Request remote
Oh.
control, and then he'll hand it over to you,
Can I try that?
and then maybe it'll work.
Sure, give
playing
it a
through
shot.
yours.
Oh, geez.
Well, let's see.
Hold on. I have to grant access.
All right.
Let's see.
I just got a
Okay.
notification that something moved in my cellar.
Oh, that's
Oh,
great.
nice.
That's creepy.
What do you suppose that means?
It's the slide.
Oh, it's the slide.
So go ahead
Yeah.
and-
Oh, well. All right.
Yeah, it's just simply not gonna work. I don't
There we
think.
go.
That's too bad.
There's Ethan.
There's
Yeah,
Ethan.
I will share this
Wait,
following the
what's
meeting.
this? What's this? Yeah, it's neat to look at even without the audio. Anyway, yeah, something to look forward to.
Oh, I have to stop it now because I have control of your
Yes.
screen, don't I? Okay.
Yes, I think I can do it. Yeah, there we
There
go.
we go.
There
Okay.
you go.
How do
Oh,
I-
wait. There's more. Hold on. It's very exciting. You're gonna love it. It's, and then I'm gonna be embarrassed at the end because I'm gonna be embarrassed. Oh, geez.
I'm Mitch Tyke and I'm the station man.
Okay.
Wait,
that
we
didn't
can just
work.
hear that. We just heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not working. I'm sorry. Let's just give up. That's it.
Let's just assume that it's great.
It's great.
yeah.
It's
All
great.
right.
It's not gonna work.
I'm trying to not control his, okay.
Excellent.
Okay, great. That's it. That's all I got.
All right.
It's a big punctuation mark of failed video at the end.
Thank you, Bill. Any other questions for Bill? We have any on the chat there, Jess?
Nothing.
Nothing? Okay. So next we have Engineer Emeritus Bob Sauter and Engineer Currentus Keith Smeal.
Hey, this won't take too long.
Should I start sharing your
Yeah, you have to just.
images?
important.
Okay.
I have the 7 slides.
All right.
Okay, so, well, what I did before Keith was here was build a few studios because we wanted to have announcers not have to be in the same room immediately following the previous announcer. And also to be used in case the EJ Noble Medical Building had to be completely evacuated. So we built studios in other places. Thanks to St. Lawrence University, we borrowed their student station, KSLU, for part of last summer. So I had to repurpose that. Okay, good. Then Canton Potsdam Hospital not only has permitted us to use the old offices of Dr. Livingston at 80 East Main Street, but they actually renovated the spaces for us as well, giving us a new conference room, an employee lounge, a thank you gift storage room, and Mitch.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. Hard to do this with the reading glasses on.
A new studio. Well, that's before it became a new studio. Okay, now the new studio. Okay. We even made arrangements with St. Lawrence to use an on-campus location as the location for an emergency remote studio.
That was this, right?
And no, that's the next one. This location is in the basement of the chapel.
Oh,
that
yeah.
actually housed the St. Lawrence student radio station in the 40s and 50s. And it has religious things in there too at the same time. It's great. Now let's see what else. We had to do outside work. We had to replace the antenna for WXLU in Peru. Next slide. That's not the antenna, but that's the view from where the antenna is. That was fun. Also, some commercial radio stations got together to create a new broadcast outlet in Lake George. Unfortunately, they used the same frequency that we were on. So we had to put a new antenna in Lake George. That's them putting the new antenna in. And I'm almost done. But the most important thing that I did was to help find a qualified engineer to take over the reins as chief engineer here at NCPR. And I was fortunate to be on the job search committee, and we were exceedingly fortunate to have found Keith Smeal. Keith really stood out way ahead of the others. Okay, of the other candidates. And ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce the real Keith Smeal.
Thank you, Bob. Okay. It's not that easy being green. So that's different character. First of all, I'm pleased and very pleased to be here. After I had applied and I was listening from home in Philadelphia and streaming and hearing some of the work that David talked about, that Bonnie talked about, are some of the things that convinced me that this was a special place. So I'm happy to be here. And looking forward, Bob's done the retrospective. The existing air studio that he referred to was built somewhere 1987, I think so, or so. So it's in need of a bit of an upgrade. As we all know, technology has changed quite a bit in the past 30 some odd years. And I'm going to bring it up to some current studio design standards with an eye toward the future. The basic facility is going to stay intact. We're not moving any walls yet. That may be, whenever we get into the strategic plan, that may be something in the future. But for now, we're going to give it a facelift, a good thorough cleaning, coat of paint, new carpet. We're working on new studio furniture to rearrange the room to make it more functional for the on-air talent. And it'll provide some flexibility to the operation, allow the air talent to do more things in more ways. In terms of the technology, the audio systems are moving from the legacy analog consoles that have been around for 30 some odd years and even longer to an audio over IP system. Most people have heard of VoIP, the voice over IP that they use for telephones. Same concept. It's using computer technology, except it's set up in such a way that there's a higher quality audio will pass through it. Instead of sounding like a telephone, it sounds like your radio or better. St. Lawrence University has been migrating to Skype, Skype for Business as for their telephone system. So we're working to integrate that into the studios. Skype for Business itself provides a higher quality audio for a telephone. So just adding that in will improve some of the audio quality. We're investigating using the internet to carry the NCPR audio to the Old Forge translator. We've had ongoing issues, as Bob has told me in the past, with signal reception in Old Forge. So this should move it forward so that that's a more consistent signal. And speaking of signals, in November, the Federal Communications Commission will have a week-long filing window where applicants can apply for new non-commercial FM licenses. We intend to be part of that. However, before that window opens in November, we have the opportunity to make a filing with the FCC to increase the coverage of WXLQ in Bristol. This will give us better coverage in the Western Champlain Valley, and it gives us a little bit more to the north and south from the transmitter site. But mostly it'll improve our Champlain Valley coverage. And within the filing window, we're looking to upgrade the translator in Old Forge to be a full Class A signal. Bob had mentioned the signal in Lake George where a commercial station came on and we got pumped. By going to a full service signal, we will avoid that with that signal in the future. And there may be other opportunities. We're working with our consultants on that. And with my being new to the North Country, any input that anyone has on where an opportunity might lie, we'd love to be able to hear NCPR in X. Let me know. Now, we are limited by FCC rules and allocations, and there's going to be a lot of competition in this filing window. The previous non-commercial filing window, some applicants put in thousands of applications. So they all fought against each other and nobody got much of anything. But there's going to be some limitations there, but we've got some distinct advantages here. So we'll be filing for those, and hopefully things come out in our favor. And one last note concerning the FCC, the licenses for the stations of NCPR are due for renewal. First up will be WXLQ in December, and the rest are due February 1st. So we'll be working on those applications so that we can continue to serve the North Country. And that's it.
And can I just say that we're just so lucky that Keith is joining us. He's a career broadcast engineer and has such a wealth of experience that we could not have imagined a better candidate to pick up where Bob left off. So Keith, welcome to the North Country, and here's to many successes ahead of us.
For sure. Can I say one last little thing?
Of course.
So one of the things I've been doing with Keith this summer is trying to show him where all our facilities are. I think we have 20 left. We've been to, I can't do the subtraction, but we have 20 left.
You've seen 14.
Yeah, okay, and that means that we're gonna go tomorrow. That means I have to make some phone calls to make sure we know where we're going tomorrow. So may I be excused?
Yes, unless
Okay.
anybody has questions for either Bob or Keith.
Okay.
And Keith and Doyle, thank you for all the engineering you've done in here today.
120-second shout out for Keith. We had a problem during the live broadcast of the Beat Authority.
Oh, yes.
On the phone with him. I don't have the cable I need. By some point, he said, just make it. And so I had the parts I needed, and we were able to splice the cable.
And I had the
together,
pocket
get
knife.
on there. Keith was thinking outside the box, and that was.
Yep.
that's
exactly what we needed.
It's like those TV shows where somebody has to land the plane on their own over the, yeah. All right, unless there are questions, we have two more presentations, and then we're already running long, but I hope it's been worth it for everyone. Lizette, you're next, and Jess, you are on deck.
Okay, so I'll try to make this as quick as possible, even though I know we are talking about money. Basically, I just want to say that I am so pleased with where we wound up this year. You know, there were a lot of concerns going into this year because we were still in a pandemic, and oh my goodness, our supporters going to be able to support us. You know, people lost jobs. There were financial impacts related to COVID that we didn't know how that would impact our fundraising and everything else. But I'm so pleased to report that we actually grew our total revenue by 2% for all of our giving programs. And our giving programs include not only our annual giving, so membership, but major gifts, matching gifts, vehicle donations, gifts from foundations, our future fund, additional special project grants that came in, endowment and annuities is what makes up our giving programs. And generally speaking, you'll see throughout this report that we had increases pretty much across the board. So that said, you know, there are a couple key items that I would like to point out.
Want me to go on to the next page?
Yeah, you
Or-
can go
okay.
further down. There you
Sorry,
go.
yeah.
You can kind of give all the totals of where everything wound up. So we made a total of $1.3 million over this last fiscal year. That is the total, which is about a 2% increase again over FY20. So in addition to that, I broke out what we did in the last quite a few years and to show you the growth of our fundraising since 2003. Okay, I'm going to have you keep going. And the same thing with our major gifts. You see where our major gifts took a hit after 2018 because a lot of our major donors supported us through the Future Fund, but we're looking to to start increasing that again, and that's going to be a combination of some program changes for that specific giving program. All right, some financial highlights. Basically, this is what we did over our fundraising. You'll see that they were pretty much bringing in about the same as we did the year previous, with the exception of our spring fundraiser, which was hugely successful. We made $324,000 on that campaign, where last year we brought in $270,000. That was a 20% increase over the year previous. So kudos to our team. Seriously, kudos to our on-air staff. Everyone just did amazing work through both our spring and fall campaigns, especially. Everyone stepped up. People were still working remote, so there were challenges with fundraising, but we made it through the other side, and our donors supported us through it all. So we're so grateful for them. All right, so without getting into too much more detail, you want to keep going up, Mitch? You'll see that our total number of donors increased. That was a 5% increase over the year before. Our donor retention, I have to say, donor retention is when a donor gives a gift the following year. And we have amazing donor retention. Our donors are very loyal to North Country Public Radio. And having an 80% donor retention for our annual givers is phenomenal. And our retention with our sustainers is even more. It's a 91% rate with sustainers. These are really things that public radio stations strive for, and we have, so we should be very proud of that. Okay, generally speaking, our average giving amount is $139, which is really good. I won't get into too many of these details. There are a lot of them, but I would like to say that, yes, we brought in 7% more new donors. And speaking to your point, Paul, yes, I could track where those came in from and stuff like that. You'll see that we had a 17% increase in the amount of money raised from new donors as well. And that in part also was a result of that wonderful New Friends Challenge that the EC group here helped us to put together. We are so grateful to you guys for seeing the need with us and giving us the ability to match new donor dollars. It's a program that we're looking to continue to grow over the next year and revise a little bit so that it can be a program that more than just the EC can engage with, but actually longtime loyal donors can maybe also help us to continue keeping this fund strong so that we can continue to use it to incentivize new donors. The Future Fund brought in 12% of our overall revenue due to multi-year gifts mostly and a couple of new ones. And we were also awarded a $50,000 grant. That grant will be used to do some of those equipment upgrades for that main studio, the primary studio that both Bob and Keith spoke about. So strategic operations, we've done quite a lot actually this year. Despite most of my team working remotely, we were able to get a lot done, which is really amazing. We have a new partnership with the Northern New York Community Foundation. That picture that you showed earlier, if you want to just hold that up, it has Mitch on the cover. That $50,000 grant was awarded through them for the donor that supported us, and the one that'll be used for.
Sadly, I don't have a screen share of that. For
That's
you.
all right, no worries. But anyway, their fund is going to be very similar to our relationship with the Adirondack Foundation, where donors will be able to grow that fund. And there'll be a bunch of matches. You can read all the details about it in that blurb. I won't get into it, but basically, oh, there you go. Lovely. There you go. Fantastic. Thank you. But as that fund grows, we'll be able to, obviously meet more people in those areas. So it'll really help us expand our growth in Thousand Islands and in Watertown. It just helps our efforts when it comes to reaching a more diverse audience than we have currently. All right, moving right along, we also did a lot of things on the back end. We integrated a wealth engine, wealth screening and prospect management tool that's going to be extremely helpful when it comes to our prospect and capacity, looking at our own database of donors to see where there is more propensity. But also it's going to help us just see new people as well, new prospects. The software that we have allows us to see people that we've never been able to see before, and give us that data that we'll be able to use with our outreach efforts and other things to help identify people who want to get more involved with North Country Public Radio, or who we want to be introduced to North Country Public Radio. All right, moving along. Matching gift program, you can see where we did bring on another partner for that, double the donation, which has been fantastic, because basically what that does is it allows a donor to actually look to see if their employer will do a match at the time of donation. In the past, that program was a little challenging because there was a lot of paperwork involved. And then the paperwork would either go to St. Lawrence or to us, and there was no trackability. And now it's clean, trackable, and much more efficient for us and, of course, the donors who are participating. Car Talk Vehicle Donation Program, we also have a new partner there. They will actually they guarantee us 70% of the gross payment. The interesting thing about vehicle donations is we made more in vehicle donations this year than we ever have before. We brought in over $12,000 in vehicle donations, which may not seem like a lot, but honestly, for us, that's fantastic. And the reality is, I know a lot of stations across the system also saw a bump in vehicle donations. I think with people being home, they were just kind of getting rid of the cars in their driveways that have been sitting there a while.
Well, and 12,000 doesn't seem like a lot, but people aren't donating their 2-year-old Mercedes. They're
That's true.
donating cars that are 18 and 20 years old.
They're welcome to
Yeah, well,
donate
exactly. They could donate them directly to us.
In any case, all that to say that it was a really good year for vehicle donations for us, and it's certainly a program that we can do more with and plan to do a little more with in the future. Okay, the other big thing was our slogan for this year's fundraising campaign was "Only Here," because and that I have to give a hat tip to Ethan Shanty, who ultimately came up with that final slogan. But it just resonated with the way this year has gone and everything we've been able to do for our audience. And only here can they get us, can they get North Country Public Radio, although digitally they can get us anywhere, but it all happens only here. So anyway, that replaced our theme, Real News Here. We had a wonderful, beautiful, scenic t-shirt that was designed by a local designer. Catherine LaPointe Vollmer just did a fabulous job on them. We incorporated a new donation option on our online donation form as well. So now we give our donors the option to actually help offset our shipping costs. As you can imagine, we have a lot of cost related to shipping premiums, our thank you gifts. So donors have actually selected that $5 just to help us ship their gift to them. So it's been really wonderful. And actually, we've, in the very short time that we've had it live, we've already raised over $2,000 to help offset that cost. And let's see here. Yeah, just to say that, again, most of my team worked remotely over this last year, but we certainly did participate in a lot of conversation, everything from, you know, major gifts or to planned giving to how can we do a better job with diversity, equity, inclusion with our donors and things like that. So I'm very proud of my team. I'm very proud of the support we received from donors, and I'm looking forward to this upcoming year. It's going to be a challenge. Obviously, we're not through this thing yet, right? New developments and all. So we have to be mindful of that, and we'll pivot as necessary. But I'm encouraged. I'm strongly encouraged by what we can do this next year and some of the new initiatives that we're going to be putting in place. So unless anybody had any questions.
No, but Hannah wants to say kudos on the donor retention rate. Amazing.
Thank you, Hannah. Appreciate that. All right. So
Well,
one last thing
and
I'll
kudos to the
share.
whole development team.
Well, thank
Really,
you.
it's the fact that we were able to accomplish so much in such a challenging year is really you and Christine and Ethan all deserve a real major tip of the hat.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right.
Sorry to interrupt.
So no, you're fine. The last thing I would like to share with you is one thing that we've not done before. You know, we get on those online donation forms. We always are asking our donors to tell us. We want to hear from you. We want to know what you think we're doing great, what you think we're not doing great. We want to know what you're listening to. So we always, every year, encourage them to actually come in and tell us something. And we read every single one. And on our online donation form, there's always a box for comments. And we received over 1,200 of those this year. And I thought it would behoove you guys to some light reading.
We're going to
possibly.
read all 12.
We're not going to read all of these. I do have one page of highlights. You can scroll down to those, but you can also, this is actually an 18-page document. So some light reading for this evening. If you so choose, you will have some lovely
I will send these
inspirational
out to everyone as
messages
well.
that have come in. Some of my favorites right here on this first screen, and a lot more to follow in the pages to come. But, you know, our donors love us. They support us. They're right there with us. They want to see us survive. They appreciate our hosts. They appreciate the programs we're putting together for them. They appreciated us getting through COVID. A lot of the comments you'll read are just people saying, thank you for getting me through this darkness. I couldn't have done it without you. So, hey, they should be acknowledged because they let us know. That's all I've got. Thank
Any
you, guys.
questions for Lizette? All right, we have one more. And that is Jessica Lawrence.
Okay, so Lizette did great, and then you got me. So
You did
obviously-
great.
So obviously, as you can imagine, businesses weren't super psyched to have COVID hit. So Bob dealt with me crying every day almost, but it wasn't too bad. So I'm just gonna say that. After COVID, I changed and said 400,000 was my goal. I ended up 13,000 over goal, so that was good. That being said, it was $27,000 less than we took in FY 2020. That is completely blamed on COVID. The most lucrative month of 2021 was June. We brought in $55,000. The least was July, and that was $21,000.
That's July of the previous year.
Correct. Just so, I don't remember if I put it on the bottom or not, but this July was $6,000 over the previous July. That's important to know. There's 277 current underwriters in fiscal year 2021. The biggest growth, obviously, as Bill mentioned, was digital. We sold photo of the day, which was pretty huge and pretty cool for us. Also, Bill sent a really nice email out within like the past 2 weeks, because every single digital product we had, I sold. it was like completely booked for 2 solid weeks. So we continue to get more and more people who want to do digital. Bill and I have talked, anybody who underwrites should be underwriting on air and digitally because it's a no-brainer. And that's one of the things that Bill likes about me is because I say it's a no-brainer. Moving forward, it's client needs, wants versus what we can give them. That's something that's a challenge for me on a daily basis for the most part. People want commercial radio where they can say and talk for 2 minutes on one particular thing. We can't do that. I know it's been really challenging for a lot of the on-air staff to move from 10 seconds to 15. A lot of stations are doing 20s and 30s now. And I know that that's something that a lot of people on air at NCPR aren't super psyched about. So we're trying to find a good medium. And also, as Bonnie and I have talked, we would like to see a rate increase for both on air, but definitely digitally, because we had such growth and we are continuing to sell out. So it's time for a rate increase, which should be great for us because we'll take in more money. Any questions?
And I think to speak to one of the issues that Jess has talked about quite a bit, and I think it's on all of our mind, is the challenge of serving our bigger clients, but also not pricing ourselves out of the market for some of the small businesses out there that are really, hard pressed and really just want an opportunity to underwrite. So I think, as we look at establishing new rates, it's also going to be keeping in mind that there are businesses and organizations out there that are looking for smaller contracts, and we don't completely want to forego them or forsake them, I guess. While at the same time looking for ways to bring in clients who can afford longer 6-month and 9-month and full year contracts.
Right. And Mitch and I have talked before too, like I'm super tenderhearted. I grew up in a business, so I totally understand the business, community a little bit more. And Bob will give me credit for this too, which I love him for. People have $200 and I work just as hard for that $200 as I do for the $10,000, because I think that those people deserve to have their events go on our radio station and their events promoted on ncpr.org as well.
They're part of the fabric of the North Country.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Thank you, David.
Story of the day doesn't produce itself.
I know.
Too bad about that, right?
Can't you automate that, Bill? Come
Yeah.
on.
Thank you all very much for coming. Thanks for listening.
All right. Thanks to all of the management team for sharing your year in review. As I said, it's one of the most enjoyable parts of this process is getting a chance to look back at what we've accomplished over the last year. Bob, I think short update on the. Oh no, we wanted.
Well,
to
we've
do
got the strategic plan.
Yeah, I can do a. Jeff Colleen has joined us. And he's going to say a bit. I wanted to bring people briefly up to date on the strategic plan. We are, Bill Hanel and I have been working on it quite a bit. I would say we are a few days from having a final draft to share with the strategic plan committee. And once they've gotten us comments about it, we'll be able to share it with the executive council and the staff at large. I'll say we've had the real good fortune to have Jeff Colleen involved in this process. He's done an amazing job of kind of pressing us to be more specific with the information and the goals that we're setting, so that it's about more than platitudes and general hopes and dreams, if you will, and much more specific numbers and goals and targets over the next 3 to 5 years. And I think, I'm the host now, am I? I think Jeff had something he wanted to add, but I am not sure how.
Go to participants.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. Sorry, I can't see over the middle. And Jeff Colleen allowed to talk.
Jeff, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
There we go. Does that work?
Yeah.
Hey,
Hi, Jeff.
How are you?
Well, thanks. Thanks for joining us.
Good. Very good meeting.
Thanks. Yeah, I just shared my thoughts about where we are in the process on the strategic plan, but did you want to share anything as well?
Yeah, I'll just a couple of things, especially, I won't say much because you and Bill are still calibrating the final edition, it sounds like. So I don't want to preempt any of that. But I just thought the process, which it was an honor for me to participate with the team on, was really thorough and thoughtful and inclusive. And I've sort of seen a sneak peek of it. And I think it reflects staff input in just a wonderful way. And is I guess probably not a lot of people know what we started this a little over a year ago or something like that, Mitch. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think with the hard work got started just about exactly a year ago.
A year ago, and it started with the SWOT analysis, which was strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And we did that at a couple levels, but most importantly, I think it was both the executive council's strategic team, and I think most importantly, it was the staff team. And I enjoyed that because it gave me a chance to early on get to meet everybody, but I thought the participation and the creativity and thoughtfulness was just great. And I'll just make one comment, not to open up Pandora's box, but because you're still finalizing the plan, but I think it's the 8 strategic pillars that will drive growth over the next period of time are beautifully thought out. And it's those pillars that will really drive growth and innovation. And the one that leads it off to maybe set some expectation is the master content thesis. But the way you wrote it, or way it's in final form, it speaks to more than just content. It speaks to this broader theme of diversity, as it's reflected in content for sure, but also in audience, news reporting, feature development, and very much staff and the executive council itself. So I thought that was a great way to start that off, Mitch. And the rest of the pillars, kind of all follow. And I apologize, I missed Kate in her opening remarks. I'm not quite sure what she said, but I think one of those pillars is an improved relationship with the university, and I know she's supportive of all that, but especially so given the curricular growth off of the university strategic plan that speaks to some new media majors, and I think the unharvested integration between SLU and the station can really kind of take off. So I'm kind of preempting some things here, but I know that's in the works. And then lastly, the work that you've done, Mitch, and Bill, to prepare the station for long-term financial sustainability, with SLU always as a backstop, but independent and hugely successful without things that have been required in the past. And the action plans really speak to that, in terms of fundraising and content and digital and infrastructure, and knock on wood, a new facility in downtown Canton. There are multiple other places. So it's a big list of neat things, and it's just been a pleasure to work with you on it. So can't wait to see the final product. And
I had one more thought I would just add. At the beginning of this process, I shared with the strategic plan committee some examples of strategic plans from other stations, and looking at the document that is nearly complete for us, I will say that ours is much more closely aligned with what National Public Radio did in just the last year or so, versus what many other stations have done, which really did amount to a lot of bullet points and platitudes without too many specifics. They really seemed like contractually obligated strategic plans, as opposed to kind of living, breathing documents. I see, I think I just saw in the chat that Margot has to depart, but Margot, thank you so much for being here. And let me pull up the chat just because I can't read it. She was sharing. Okay, we'll jump. I will include your comments when we get to the quick updates from the various subcommittees. So Anyway, that's all I had as regards to the strategic plan, unless others had questions. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Paul, do I need to mute him again?
Probably should.
There we go.
But
Yes, I
Not
see.
because of anything for Jeff's standpoint. Sorry, Jeff.
All right.
Okay.
I'll turn things back over to Bob.
Okay, we do have some executive council business to take care of. One is the election of officers for the coming year. When we get the committee structure a little better established, normally the Governance and Nominations Committee would be handling this. I don't think we're there yet, right? So essentially, the bylaws allow officers to serve 3 consecutive one-year terms. And the 3 current officers, Julia, Ann, and myself have agreed to serve for another year, would be our 2nd year. So we would need somebody to make a nomination for that, second it, and then we will vote on that. And of course, if there's somebody else who wants to be nominated, that can happen. But essentially, that's where we are. So,
Make the nomination.
okay, thank you. We have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thanks. And all in favor of re-electing the 3 officers?
Excuse me for one second. You probably need to unmute the EC member.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Or they can put
They
it
can
in
type
chat.
it.
or
Otherwise,
something.
they could be objecting and we'll never know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Or they can put
They
it
can
in
put it in the
chat
chat.
too.
Yeah.
Volunteer it. Come on.
So EC members that have joined us, no objections. If anybody
From
had, does anybody have objections? Please enter them in the chat. And then you can also enter your yays or raise your hand. I guess that would.
Yeah. Anyway, so any other comments before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and
Any objections that we're aware of?
No.
Any and any abstentions? Okay, pending
all right.
Okay, welcome back, anybody who's out there. Technical difficulty. We had dead air on the meeting.
Yes, we did.
So, as anybody in radio knows, dead air is not a good thing. The issue at hand is the re-election of EC members whose terms are expiring. We know of Julia, Ann, and myself. If any other EC member's term is currently expiring this year, let us know. If you find out later that your term is expired, we can get you voted back on at the next meeting. So do we want to have a motion just for the people we know whose term is expiring?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll have a motion to re-elect for another 3-year term, Julia, Ann, and myself. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions or objections? And anybody out there in Zoom land, please chat or whatever it is you.
Yeah, are we able to hear you? Since we're not running this as a webinar at this point.
You hit the participants.
Yeah.
No objections from Alan.
Okay,
Okay,
thank
thanks,
you.
great.
And Rich, are you there? Can you just let us know that you can hear?
Yes, I can hear. No objections from me.
Thank
Okay,
you.
great, thanks.
And Peter from your car?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Okay, those 3 members have been re-elected. And as I said, anyone else whose term has expired, or when you figure that out, please let us know. Also, please, if you do know when your terms expire, please email both Mitch and myself, and we'll make sure we get that to the Governance and Nominations Committee and to Julia. So
And these are 3-year terms, so.
3-year
We
terms.
started in 2008.
Right. So, and for some of you, it might have been 2015 when you first came on the council, but it's 3-year terms.
Also, too, people need to fill out this forms and get them to, so that they can do the directory.
Right, yes. We do need to try to get the full contact information for all EC members, email, phone, mailing address. So we'd like to have a directory that will be available to EC members.
There was a sheet, I believe, that Mitch sent a while ago, and if people can direct those to Bryna, she's the one who's consolidating all
Okay.
that information.
Okay, good. Yes, yeah. So again, I apologize. A spam call. I'm good at that. So yes, the committee has undergone some changes, in the last couple of years, and we're getting things up and running. This committee structure, et cetera. So we're still, working out a few odds and ends, but the next item, and I'll jump to this. I'll get back to you, Julia, in a second on the committees, but Christopher Robinson's term, I don't know if it expired, but he has emailed us that he is does not wish to continue on the executive council. And we have emailed him back that we will accept his decision to leave the council. We also have an email from Mike Erickson, whose term I think did expire at this meeting. And we're going to defer that, Mike, to the next meeting. I want to just talk to you first. I haven't had a chance to call you yet. But I understand your dilemma, but I did want to talk to you. And we have not voted you back on, so don't worry. But we would love to be able to see if you could continue and somehow to stay involved. But I will be in touch with you. And then because we have some openings, we're going to defer any discussion on specifically filling those openings until the next meeting. And prior to the next meeting, I'll be in touch with Mitch, as well as the Governance and Nominations Committee. Should be working with him for the process of seeing how we might find new candidates. And there is a very specific procedure. I remember 3 years ago going through all that.
There's an application.
Right.
And on-air spots. to
Right,
talk about.
so we'll be doing all that before the next meeting. And we'll also look for recommendations from current EC members of people we think might make good EC members. And we might reach out to them, as well as the public announcements that will come from the station. So we will address that at the next meeting. Yes.
Just a comment on
Yes.
that. Marion asked that I ask the EC members if you could think about any tips that you have. Marion Smith, who is the chair of the nominating committee, I think.
Yes.
About diversifying.
Right.
In all the ways that we think about diversity.
Mhm.
Tips that you have for doing that to be more representative of the.
Good, and we can direct those tips to Marion or
Yeah.
to Mitch. to
Either
fill the-
way, to Mitch
Yeah.
and Marion.
And I'll jump in and just add, one of the conversations that we've had in the nominating committee has been thinking about diversity in ways that are more than, race or gender, or it's, different underrepresented groups, it's geographic diversity, it's kind of diversity in all its forms, just to make sure that people have the entryway, we have the entryway into various communities around the North Country. So if there are ideas that you have, please pass them on to me or to Marion.
Okay, good. And just a point here, the executive council role here is, we have no actual authority. We're an advisory group. And we're supposed to be an advisory group to the radio station representing the needs and interests of our community. So that's why we need a broad representation on the executive council, so that our entire listening community has a voice at the council, so we can help give the station input with ideas. So again, please let us know potential candidates and please think of how we can make sure that all areas of our listening audience are represented as best we can. I just, Julia, were you going to be able to make some reports or comments on the other committees?
Well, we have 4 committees. It sounds like the nominating committee is up and running and its time to shine is forthcoming. I don't have any specific updates. Mitch, is there anything other than what we just discussed?
I will say the other area that we discussed is taking a good look at the current bylaws for the EC, just to see if any of them need updating or clarification. It's been a while since we done kind of a top to bottom look at what's in the EC bylaws. Marion had a good contact with an attorney who specializes in them. And I've sent him the bylaws and we're working on setting up a time to sit down and informally go over them. Obviously, any changes to the bylaws would have to be approved by the executive council at large, but this seemed like a good time to just start looking at any kind of open questions.
Great.
Does the board of trustees need to approve changes to the bylaws?
That's I'm not 100% sure, but that may well be the case as well.
I believe they approved the bylaws.
They approved them initially when they were first done, yes.
So I don't remember things.
Yeah, let me take a look.
Maybe amend, see, the executive council may amend these bylaws by any regular meeting by a vote of not less than 60% of members then in office. Any voting on amendments to these bylaws shall be conducted by paper ballot only. Any such amendments to these bylaws may be vetoed by the Board of Trustees of St. Lawrence University within 90 days after written notification to such of such amendments, or at its next regularly scheduled meeting, whichever shall last occur. So the Board of Trustees of St. Lawrence University has veto power, but we can amend our bylaws, and barring, an edict from above.
It looks like that is this paper ballot, probably should say by paper ballot.
Well, it says
email.
paper ballot, including electronic / facsimile. So,
There's probably an opportunity to update that.
Yeah.
It will definitely be updated.
They don't specify what to do in the case of a dead like chat.
We may
Okay.
even put it digitally online
Yeah.
this time.
Yeah, that's fine. And I, in my role at the university, I've now assumed the job of secretary to the board of trustees, so that notification will come to me.
okay, oh, excellent, yep, no problem.
Great.
So you can just say that.
Okay. We had the update from Margot, I think. Lizette, do you have that?
Yeah, because it's
It
on the other
disappeared. It
chat.
was on-
That's
it was on
fine.
the
I can
webinar.
speak to
Thank
what we
you.
basically did. The fundraising subcommittee did meet, and what Margot was going to present was the fact that obviously, the role of this board is to kind of help us build relationships, introduce us to folks, cultivate and all this stuff. So we need to start somewhere though. So the real thing we came at was the subcommittee's role will likely be interacting with the rest of the EC to start seeing what we can do in each of your communities. So part of that is going to be learning some skill sets. We may lack in some graphic design. We have graphic design needs. Is there anybody on the board who has graphic design skills who might be able to help us with our media kit, for example, things like that. So we are going to be putting together a survey to the EC members to kind of flush some of that out and also find out what you're comfortable with. Like, are you willing to go and do an event, either virtually or in person within your community, something that we can put together, things like that. So we can really start seeing having interactions more specific with the group. The other thing we talked about is formalizing the lead process. In other words, if you have a prospect to let us know, let's touch base on a monthly basis instead of every quarter where things just fall by the wayside. How can we make the process of working with EC members more streamlined and more successful, honestly. So things like that. So there are things coming, I guess is what I can tell you. and we're starting to grow that. And I'm just really grateful again for everyone on the team, because honestly, what we need is you guys as a resource. You know, we can't do it all. Obviously, we're so busy. You saw the numbers we presented and the work we're doing just to keep our operations going. So having this group really help us, whether it means we put together a thank you letter from the EC that we could use as a value added thing to a special donor or whomever, you know, things like that. And obviously we're looking for ideas. If EC members have ideas on things or want to present things that we can do, they should bring it to the fundraising group and let us know what your ideas are. All right.
Great, thank you for that impromptu update. Then we have the community, the University Relations Subcommittee that has not met this quarter, I know, and so we'll make sure that we have a meeting of that in the next quarter to come. And Mark Dwansnick is not here presently.
He emailed, I don't know if you saw his
I
email
did see
today, and so we will, he's had trouble, honestly, I think, finding the time to run that committee. So when I have my regular conversation with him, I think one of the topics for conversation is just whether we'd be better served. He's perfectly suited for that position, and so I'm hopeful if we can find a way to make it work for his schedule, he'll continue to serve, because I know he works with 2 different university boards of trustees. But if we need to find someone to run the committee and just have him take part in another way, I think we'll want to do that.
And then lastly, and I think the biggest thing for us to discuss and deal with is the community outreach subcommittee, which has really yet to take flight. We need to repopulate it and find somebody to lead it. And I think it's crucially important. And Bonnie will be the radio liaison of that subcommittee, but we currently are without leadership there.
Right, and that was originally supposed to be Jim Howard, who was unable to, based on his personal circumstances, unable to lead that committee. And so we can put out a call to the EC at large and look for a new chair for that committee and get it up and running.
Anything else, Julia?
Nope, that concludes my report.
Okay, thanks. And with the community outreach, well, first let me just say, all these committees, they're subcommittees of the executive council, is to be a tool for the radio station, to be some extra, helping hands, ideas and whatnot to the radio station. And that's why all these committees have a station liaison. And we're really there to help them, and they will really sort of direct the committees, how they want us to best help the station. And I'll say about the Community Outreach Committee, one of their jobs, of course, is to discuss and evaluate questions and comments and suggestions from listeners. We had I had another email from a listener who was interested in some ideas that he'd like to see. I've told him that we're referring this to that committee, but we need to get that committee up and running so it can help with that evaluation. But that will be an important committee, and it will work with Bonnie and give Bonnie some help and some support for the decisions of the station, because as representatives of the community, which the council is, we'll be able to help her with that. I think that is it.
Yeah, I guess the call is, if you're here, present and want to be or have the capacity to be on that committee, please let me and Bob and Mitch know. And if you want to be the leader of that committee, then certainly
raise your hand.
And I would think most of these committees will meet, some committees will meet by Zoom. So it will be some time, but it won't be hours of driving through the bleak winter nights of the North Country.
Right.
Let's see, public comments and questions.
So we had 3 people submit public comments. One was Louis Kurth, one was Ralph. Oh, I'm forgetting Ralph's last name. Ralph Lentz, yes, from Carthage, and Michael Owen, who joined us on the meeting earlier. Unless there's objection, I will pass those comments along to Ann to include in the record. Mike Owen also had hoped to address us today until the system kicked him out. I invited him back on to the continuation of the meeting, and he responded a few minutes ago that he's going to submit his comments by writing.
Okay, great.
I
Yes.
will include those in the record as well.
Right, and all those comments that have been submitted, as I said, will be in the record of the meeting and will be referred to the as appropriate to the community outreach committee.
We'll have to do minutes from the last meeting and this minutes meetings at the next meeting.
Right, yes, the approval of the minutes for the last meeting. One more thing we need to do, and we won't take the time to hash it all out right now, but we should, within the next, hopefully, week or two, come out with a schedule of the meeting dates for the next fiscal year through the next annual, hopefully next annual meeting next year. This is important so we can get these on our calendars, so we can get the best possible attendance from staff and
the next meeting, provided COVID enables us, is typically our meeting that takes place off-site someplace. We've done it at Heaven Hill in Lake Placid in the past. I know Linda Cohen has offered us the use of the facility, the arts facility in Old Forge. So that's a possibility. There's some sentiment to hold it in Plattsburgh at some point as well. So know that if we can, we'll do the fall meeting offsite. The winter meeting is generally our remote meeting, so people don't have to drive. And then there will be another meeting in the spring.
Before this annual meeting.
We'll be right back.
So to the extent we can get that a tentative set of meeting dates out, give members an opportunity to give a little feedback. But we'd like to get that set up. Would we like to go into executive session?
Jeff had to leave, so I think I'm good from my perspective.
Okay, so we will not.
Unless there's another.
Anybody else want to go into executive session for any reason? Okay, I think that really covers it. I want to thank everybody.
Motion to, I made a motion to close the meeting.
Oh, yeah, we should have.
Yeah,
that's fine.
I thought I could wait till.
Yes.
I could make my.
Because then,
It says right here, concluding remarks.
Otherwise we could all ignore you. So.
Right, so if I may, I would like to thank everybody. I apologize for the long meeting time. We had a lot to cover. This is important work we're doing. And for the members of the Executive Council, we really appreciate your time that you put into this. It's very important, and staff, we all love you and keep up the really great work. So, thanks so much. And if there's nothing else, we'll have a motion to adjourn. Julia, okay, second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, thanks so much.
Who was the second?